I'm Elisa Parker. This is the Wild and Scenic Film Fest, the largest of its kind in the United States. It definitely is an incredible experience. If you haven't been, I hope you join us. It's this joining of, I call them our environmental action heroes and the storytellers which, let's face it, that's shaping our culture. Something else that is significant for shaping our culture is the food that we consume, the food that we grow and that we nurture and nourish. I'm so thrilled and honored to introduce our next guest. Speaking of food, we have Chanowk and Judith Yisreal, and they are part of Yisreal Farms, and it's not too far from us. So first, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you both here. And
Thank you.
By the way, I should say the film is Farming While Black, and it's such a powerful film, and it's something that I think everyone needs to see and experience. So first of all, we're talking about food and the symbolism of how that shapes our culture. Yisreal Farm, has it been just, over 10 years that it's been in production?
Yeah, we were probably about 15 total
15
from the
years.
time that we put the first seeds in the ground.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Can you tell everyone, now this is based in Sacramento, it's in an area, as I understand, that's not a typical farming space, is that right?
Definitely. It's known as a food desert. Of course, for me, I think one of the main impetuses, and I'm talking about up until 2008, was really my parents. Because both of them have had cancers and things, and since then they passed away. But I can just remember, when I was young, I used to come home, I was what they call, I don't know if you remember that term, latchkey kids.
Yes, I do. Kid of the 70s.
I was a latchkey kid. And so I would come home, and eventually I felt like I wanted to eat some food. And so I would get Velveeta cheese and put it in my macaroni and cheese,
Yes.
and I would have hot dogs with some white bread,
Canned fruit.
canned fruit.
Fruit cocktail, whatever that is. Whatever canned fruit cocktail is.
Absolutely. So that would be a meal for me. And so, of course, now we know that those probably weren't the best meals to eat. And so with my parents having both of those health situations, I had a friend of mine who had multiple sclerosis, and he was able, by getting off the medicine and going to a plant-based diet, he healed himself. And so I was like, okay, food is very, very important, more so than what I've led to believe. So time goes on, I'm working in the IT department, and then boom, 2008 happens. And then it was that nurtured the seed.
Oh my God, the crash?
Yeah.
The .com bust.
Yeah.
I was part of that in San Francisco.
Yeah. So that was what started me to start thinking about growing food and things of that nature around 2008. And then I'll switch it over to Judith so she can talk about how she got to 2008. And then we'll talk about
And then we're going to go. Okay.
We get into meat.
All right, Judith.
Yeah, for me, I come from a long line of natural healers and herbalists. And, so it was very common growing up that, if someone had an ailment, mom would go out and pick some twigs and get a plant and put it together on the stove, and you would feel better. So as I grew into my adulthood, I wanted to get more closer to plants, and those same herbs that I was familiar with that healed me and my sisters and my family growing up. And so I decided that I would throw some plants into a pot and some herbs and just kind of rekindle that relationship that I remember growing up. And I didn't do well. I, killed a lot of plants, and then so he laughs because he used to laugh at me all the time about that. But yeah, that was really my introduction to really understanding that how plants are very healing, and in so many different ways. But it also just rekindled that fire to want to get closer to the land.
And the reason why I'm laughing is because while she's doing it she's killing herbs on one side of town, I'm killing vegetables on the other.
Oh my God. Yes. So then you're like, hey, you know what? We should be farmers.
Yeah, let's kill some plants together. Let's try to see how many plants we can mess up.
And let's pick an area where no one's growing food, by the way, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so and I do want to talk about food as medicine. I mean, you kind of already had, obviously, with both of your personal stories and related to that. But, okay, so 2008, you're killing the plants. When do you make that leap, though, to say, we've got this? And you know what? Like, it's part of our roots, our life. Like, I mean, my grandparents were farmers, right? I grew up with that as a kid, you know, and so we've talked about earlier about knowing your roots, knowing your history in order to be how we show up right now. When did you take that leap? Like, what gave you the belief in that? First of all, what did give you the belief? Because the movie Farming While Black, it talks about like 2% of the farmers are black in this country, right? So those are all the things we know.
Yeah, so I think for me it was around 2011 for both of us. Around that time, that's when we decided to leave our corporate jobs.
Okay.
So if you think about it in terms of a tree, we planted this tree called Let's Grow Food in the Backyard. Let's grow herbs and start to do things with them. We started making soap. We made wine. We did this and we did this. We grew all different types of vegetables and fruits. And it wasn't until about 2011. And I was, I separated from my job at that point, right after Thanksgiving. I called Judith on the phone and said, because we had talked about it before, and I was like, I want to do this full time, and she's like, you got a good job though.
Right. Oh, I get that. It is risky. I mean, it's okay. We talk about taking a leap. Right. And that's a big deal. Right. And that's part of, I think everything's accelerated right now. We're inviting people to take leaps in their life. So you take this risk. So she's like, are you sure? And what is it?
Well, she knew I was sure, because when I called her, she said, "Oh, well, I guess it's time to get to work now."
Okay.
So then from that point, I just went into the back. So the story in Farming While Black and our story are very similar. One person was working, and the other person was working on the farm.
And that's more than a full-time job.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2011, and then 2012, I nudged her, and we finally said, okay, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And you were living in Sacramento. So, and was this a neighborhood that you were living in? Like, were you familiar with? Like, describe this neighborhood to us.
Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Well, the neighborhood is known for a lot of empty lots. It's in South Sacramento, and I don't really know how to describe it. Chanowk, you might have to take it from here.
All right, so I've kind of been in the neighborhood probably for the last 35 years. My parents came out here from Texas, went to the Bay Area, then came to Sacramento, been here ever since. So we're talking about food deserts, fast food restaurants, empty lots, all those different types of things, as well as crime. But more importantly, thinking of the bad things, but we're talking about redlining, victim of redlining, disinvestment of resources and things for there to be opportunities in those neighborhoods. Redlining to a fact to where if you went over Stockton Boulevard, which is like a few winks away, it's like back then my dad was like, you couldn't live there. It was like, I was like, Dad, what do you mean you couldn't live there? And he was like, well, if you went over there back when I was growing up in the 50s, they would just say all the houses were sold. Wow. But it was like, there's a sign there, but like, it's in escrow already. So that was the kind of the climate in which that all took place.
So fast forward now. So it's been, like you said, about 15 years, right? Give or take. Feels probably like lifelong time, right? Through all the efforts that have been involved. Now you've created this incredible space, integrated with the community, doing education, working with youth. Can you tell us like the leap that this has been now, and like how you've transformed this area? And I mean, there's so many questions about that, but that's the first question.
Gotcha. I'll let you take that.
Well, a lot of the work that we've done in the space, as we started to learn and realize the benefits that putting our hands in the soil did for our family, we wanted to take it out to the community. And so that started with education. It started with, cooking good food. So, I mean, it's one thing to grow the food, but once you grow it, what are you going to do with it? And how am I going to get my children to eat it, right? And so that's where the educational cooking came in for us. And then we also did a lot of work with youth as well. So we had a summer immersion program where youth would come in and they were immersed in agriculture. And now it wasn't just learning how to plant a seed and how to grow something, but these are life lessons that these students also learned as they went and went through the program and learned more about the land and that just the ancestry reverence that came with it as well.
Right.
And also, it's like, so imagine you have a bunch of children coming in. They're like this ag program. They're like, most of them are there. They're like, okay. Some cases it was, why are you here? My mom made me, those types of things.
Okay.
And it had a lot of that. And so imagine the first day, like, okay, you get this seed here, and here's a seed that's planted in a pot. And they're like, okay, great. And I'll be like, no, this is your life.
Wow.
Your life is a seed, and what you learn how to do here can transfer over. And we provided the bridge to do that.
Dang. And now you're seeing some of them as youth. Now they're probably like young adults.
Yeah, they're young
right?
adults.
And seeing how the ripples of what you've planted has grown into, because this has been a model now. I mean, you're pioneers in this.
Yeah, definitely. And there's one of the young men that came through the program. He now works with a larger program in Sacramento where they go around and do landscaping, etc., construction projects, building projects, and he came right from Project Good, and he's now doing that now. So
I mean, we could speak for hours about this.
Sure.
I mean, one question I have too, just on the relationship level, like how has that been for both of you as a couple? And with your family, like what's been a key practice to be sustainable in that? Because people think farming's often romantic. It's really a lot. It's all consuming. You gotta be present, it's seasonal, all the things.
I think it's definitely a balance.
Okay.
And I think that the balance comes with, so there's times when you get romantic about it. Like, if I'm looking at the area where the orchard is, and I can say my dad used to sit here before there was a tree planted, and those types of things. But then there's also just the hard work of, we planted trees and we didn't know how to prune, so now we got these overgrown plants that are pruned. And one time we had apprentices or volunteers, and we say only cut that branch, and then they cut all the branches.
Right. Sounds like my dad. He's like, leaves like one branch of the plum tree. I'm like, what is that about?
But ultimately, I think one of the things that we did realize, and I think that is very needed in this society, is the relationship between masculine and feminine.
Ooh,
and that's it's represented in agriculture in so many ways. I won't belabor the point because we could spend another few hours on that. But the idea is that the earth, you put a seed in the earth, it's nurtured, and then of course it produces true to its kind. So, as we think about our minds are the same way. We can put seeds there. Environments that we can come into are the same as we can put seeds there. And depending on what you're trying to grow, then those things, the earth will nurture those things and bring those things forth.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Judith, what do you want to say to everyone about, we're talking about taking a risk, having a vision to see something when it's not even there. Like, what do you want to say to everyone who's watching this right now about why it's so important to have the faith in that, and why it is so important for people to engage and even know this story about Yisreal farms?
Sure. I think that one of the impactful things I can say is that when you put your hands in the soil, it will change you. And it doesn't matter who you're from, who you are, or where your people are from. We've all come from the soil, and we all have roots there. And the magic that happens behind that is unchangeable. So, I just want to say it is risky, and there's a lot of work behind it. And I had a young lady who came today after the film screening that we had, and she asked me something similar. She says, how do you keep going with all of these obstacles in your way? The loan denials, the access to land, the environmental concerns. How do you keep going? And I said, the one thing is that your why has to be strong enough. Why are you in this? Why are you doing this? Because without that, then you will see all of the obstacles, and they will become an obstacle.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
And Chanowk, where can folks go to get more information and get involved with what you're doing?
Well, the main way that you can get a hold of us is on, you got Facebook, Instagram. You can look Yisreal Family Farms or Yisreal Farms there. You can find us there. You can also find us on our website as well. Just type in our name and search. You'll find a lot of information there about who we are, what we do. And another thing that I'd like to say is that we also have, in addition to farming, we also have a health and wellness part of us. We do soap, we do body butter, all those different types of things, and many of those things come from our farm as well. So we got farm to fork, and we have farm to skin.
Ooh, farm to skin. Oh my gosh. Did you bring anything with you?
We did not bring anything
I was
with
like,
us,
ooh,
but
I want to experience that. I appreciate you both so much, and thank you for being part of this festival. Thank you for what you're doing and transforming
The hood for good.
Yeah, the hood for good.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
So
you for
you're
having
both
us.
amazing, and it's my pleasure. And connect with them. They're going to be here. They're here. They're here right now. I'm Elisa Parker. It is the Wild and Scenic Film Fest. You got to be part of this. You got it. It's the hood for good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.